this is probably the part of the podcast today that I hope the listeners can take away the most. You nailed something that is so critical to me in everything I've done over the years, which is the word language, right? And we're not talking about the literal language in German, English, and Mandarin, etc. We are actually literally talking about even like the word risk that your first speaker and I mentioned earlier, even the word governance, by the way, Mark, right? So one of the things I had to do, the word governance is so harsh, believe it or not, still today in 2023 for some organizations and their leaders and the ones affected by it. Yeah. So over the years, for example, one of my most favorite, and back to the pyramid you described, I love the word alignment, for example. Right. And not just because of the shift to agile principles and not because of Spotify and what they have done to really, find that sweet spot, for alignment and so on across their teams and squads and so forth. But the reality is that's what we want to do with the choices we make language wise as well. We want to create some level of alignment. You talked about simplicity already. Yeah. So, behind all the success in PMOs, portfolios and programs is an element of culture. And how the culture, which is really what? It's behaviors and practice. It's really boils down to the leaders. You also, when you made those remarks, in my head, I'm talking about who are these leaders of the future, right? Because again, I am not married today in 2023 to words like project manager, program manager. I think
I think it's the Shu-Ha-Ri concept, right? We've gone through the Shu, we've gone through the formalistic training, we've become masters of our trade, but now the Ri means you've got to be able to be at such a level of understanding where you can integrate multiple. So are you familiar with the I, the T, the N, the M development?
I recall that. It's been a while since I got into that because I thought you were going to go into the T-shaped skills, which is different.
No, because you are a perfect. So it used to be I, right? You started in a discipline. You were an apprentice, and you moved up, and you became a master. Like you were an engineer, right? That was your background.
Absolutely.
When was the last time you practiced engineering?
Oh, I cannot say on this because I'm good.
But I mean, you have a PhD, right? So you went that classical route, and then you said, well, I want to have more impact with what I do. So you started developing that T base, right?
Right.
Project management, risk management, quality management, communication, team, all that kind of stuff. And then what happens, the N comes about when you say, okay, but now I'm going to learn more about lean, right? And I'm going to learn more about this. And that's the real, I think, future for advanced project managers is to be able to go through the I, to go through the T, but then also like put down more and more pillars that gives you more languages.
Mark, the future is both scary and super exciting. Yeah. Because you even didn't mention the big AI component.
No, I had do you know Alyssa Farrow?
Yes.
I had her on a podcast not too long ago. We're just posting her. So that's a hot topic.
Yeah, AI or not, but the reality is, to your point, the only advice for myself or anybody else who wants to practice, especially the next gen, right, is you got to be a sponge. The reality is you're going to have to really be a sponge. Like almost nonstop capture of different ways of thinking, working, adjusting yourself almost 100% to realizing these are things I'm going to throw away. These are things I want to keep. And that's how I'm going to progress, right? But I love the analogy you've done. But the reality is the pace by which we need to inject those new learnings and ideas. And that's why I think a big part of the role in the future is innovation and almost creativity on steroids, right? Absolutely. You've got to find ways by which we can truly be the ones looked at for creativity around problem solving. I love, some of the ideas like wicked problem solving and some of those things that, you can see around the PMO world.
The way of working you mentioned already, the concept of discipline, agile, there's some interesting thoughts in there. I don't think they always apply. I also think that Spotify has changed its color substantially as well. So there's an evolution there. But you know what I'd like to do? What I'd like to do is because I'm really a big fan of what I've read about your book so far. I'd like to use kind of your book kind of as a guideline to pick your thoughts. Of course, I'm not we don't have the time for you to give us the full download, but I'd like to pick out a couple things I highlighted from your book, and maybe you can kind of set the stage and give us some.
Can I before you go there? Not for anything else, but to just also give you a sense of even though this is my first book as the one author, last year, there was a book with Kersner's, your other cowboy. So we had 3 authors for the last book. The last book actually was called The Next Gen, because that's such a close topic to my heart as well. What are we going to do, for the next gen project manager? So to also correct the fact that I care about project management, we had to nail that first. So next gen PM.
By the way, this is one of my hopes that you're going to finally hook me up with Professor Kurtzner, so I can maybe get him on the podcast as well.
Absolutely. So, but he and I and Ricardo Vargas, who I'm sure you know Ricardo as well, and many of your listeners, we tackled in that book, Next Gen, it's pillars for organizational excellence, right? So we tied it to the organization because that was my passion anyhow. Mm-hmm. I want to anchor things when I do them always to the organization. At the end of the day, that's why even PMI in the past used to have this, mission statement, let's call it: worldwide organizations will embrace, value, utilize project management and attribute their success to it, like a lofty big dream, right? That's gone in a way. Other things followed. But that has always and remains my passion. Imagine, because we've talked about these CEOs coming and say, the reason my numbers have quadruples and I scaled and did this and that is because of my project and program management capability. Then I checked all the boxes, right? Anyhow, that book is all about cases. It's all about really how organizations tell us what they've done to validate what we 3 thought. This one, which just literally got released at the PMI Summit, is more focused on program management. And I'm sure we're going to get into that. And it's really, again, if you think about the title, is going beyond project management to enable value-driven change.
There's so much more to it. And once again, I keep trying to nail it to a simple cause. I think the simple cause is in the number one characteristic that PMI assigns to projects, and the very fact that they're temporary.
Yeah.
The life cycle issue is something that's difficult to understand, and to put it back to this concept of different language, corporate language, right?
Yeah.
The problem that we have is that we have outputs, we have outcomes, and now if we add the third element to it, if we're talking about sustainable development goals and stuff, also called triple bottom line, is impact.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think if you don't understand these 3 words and how that they truly assign this value delivery concept that PMI is also trying to sell more and more. Yeah. It's like OPM. It's the big picture. If you're not online with it, I've told this story before, but I'm going to share it with you again because I think it's so hilarious. Many years ago, I was managing an Austrian company that really spent a lot of money, and then I spent many millions training their whole staff. They had 7 subsidiaries in different countries in Europe, and they actually even had the title Project Portfolio Manager, which I'd never seen before until at that time, right? And this guy shared a story with me that during a corporate retreat, he, during a coffee break, walked up to the CEO, who was a very formidable and well-known person. He had a lot of charisma. He walked up to the CEO and said, "Hi, I'm your portfolio manager. I'd have a couple issues I would like to discuss with you." And you know what he looked at him? He looked at him in disgust while he was pouring his coffee, and he said, "Leave me alone with that operational crap." And I swear to God, when he told that story, I almost lost it. I'm like, oh my God, here's a company that's literally spending millions. They have 3 different levels of PMO. They have a portfolio manager, and the top executive doesn't understand yes, it's operational, but how this operational ties into his missions, ties into his strategy, ties into his vision. That this wasn't more clear was just fascinating to me.